Hello, community. It's a great day, and my name is Sheila Hardy, and I'm the founder and CEO of Because It's Personal. And here with me is my co-host, Ericka. We are the world, Scott, of LifeChangers Inc. And this is Community Nonprofit Network Podcast, aka CNN. Our motto is where your nonprofit shines. Hey, Ericka, what's happening?
Hey, Sheila, how are you?
I'm doing fine, doing great. I got a great interview today, and he actually was here once before, and want to just let you know our topic is grant writing tips. So let's do it again with David Pyoas. That's what we're going to be doing, grant writing tips. David, how you doing?
I am doing well, Sheila. Thank you for asking.
All right, good. We know that you had a little bit of setback with COVID, but look, you took care of it. It's okay now.
It's okay.
Right. Okay, good. So you're raring to go.
Absolutely.
Great. All right. So let's talk about grant writing, and let's talk about tips. Well, first of all, what is grant writing, or what is a grant? Let's put it that way. That's
okay.
a better question.
I think that's a great place to start. And to use very basic and simple language, a grant is free money. It's different from a loan because it's monies that someone gives you that you don't have to pay back in order to do a certain project or certain task. So that's the ostensibly the major difference between a grant and a loan, and basically what a grant is.
Awesome. Okay, and so for me to get a grant, I have to know what about why I want a grant. I have to know what.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. Well, grants take on different forms. There are grants that are provided for businesses, for-profit organizations, and those types of grants can range from helping you with startup costs. They could also include land acquisition, operating costs. They could help you if you're interested in helping to market your business, expand your business. So, in the for-profit arena, principally those are the major types of grants that you find. It's really interesting. I've been at this for over 20 years now. And it's been quite cyclical. When I first started out as a company writing grants, we wrote grants for businesses, and there was a lot of monies out there for businesses, grants for businesses. Over time, I would say from 2000 to around 2008, 2010, those funds started to kind of dry up a little bit. And so most of the grants that you would find were primarily grants that were provided by the federal government. However, those grants were more specific for research and development. Okay. However, as we move forward to present time, and particularly post-COVID, we are finding more and more grants that are available for businesses doing a whole wide range of different activities. There are now grants, quite a few actually, grants for the food and beverage industry, primarily because the food and beverage restaurants, if you will, have been hit hard as a result of the pandemic. And so we're finding through a number of different mechanisms, if you will, the increase in funding opportunities that are now available for different kinds of business. One of the things that's really interesting that has happened post-COVID is that it has forced people to rethink how they go about doing business. One of the more current trends that we're seeing is that many people are now wanting to do their own thing. They want to be their own boss. Yeah, I guess a lot of folks got used to being at home. So, you've got all these home-based businesses, cottage businesses that have sprung up seemingly overnight, and the opportunities to do e-commerce, to work from home, to work behind a computer, and earn an income in order to feed yourself and support your family has increased exponentially. So as a result of that, there are more opportunities out there for individuals to start a business, expand a business, move from having a hobby and transitioning to a more formalized business opportunity. So, that it's really been great. It's been great for me, I must say. So that's what has been happening on the for-profit side. It's somewhat in a nutshell. Now, let's step back for a second and let's take a look at the nonprofit community, the nonprofit ecosystem. Always has been an interesting part of the grant community. Has always been there. Funding has always been there. However, understandably, in the nonprofit community, most of our funding opportunities have come from either governmental agencies. We're talking federal, state, local. We have grants that are provided by foundations. We have grants that are provided by corporations, and we have grants that are provided via individuals. Okay. With that being said, oftentimes these funding sources, and I'm talking now more so with respect to foundations, corporations, and individuals, most of these grants are, as they are provided through those types of organizations, are based to a great degree on what's going on in the economy. One of the things that we do when we say, for example, if we wanted to identify a grant because it's personal, and we have an understanding of what your primary thrust is, say it's transitional housing. Okay. So we're able to utilize a number of different search engines. We identify those organizations, either federal, state, local, foundations, corporations, and individuals that will fund transitional housing within your geographic area. After having made that identification, then we will drill down. Okay? One of the tools that we use, we will look at the companies. It's called a 990. It's a form. It's a tax form. It's the nonprofit 1040. Okay, so the 990 is a form that nonprofit foundations, corporate, they file to the IRS, but it also gives you an understanding of where the monies are coming from. Okay, if someone has a $1 million foundation, well, they may have $1 million that they have in terms of assets, but as you look at their financials, you'll see that these foundations or corporations, they invest that money. Okay, so as they invest that money, the monies that they have to divvy out to the nonprofit community is based on how well that stock or how well that investment vehicle that they have used with that $1 million. Okay, so kind of circle back. If the economy is doing well and they've made a good return on their investment, then they have more monies to divvy out to the nonprofit community. If the economy isn't doing that well, then there's less money to divvy out to the nonprofit community. That's one piece. The second piece of this is that the number of nonprofit organizations have steadily increased over the years. Okay? So you've got a situation whereby you may or may not have a large pool of monies, but you've got a larger pool of individuals going after that same piece of money. So the landscape has become a very competitive situation. So it makes for very interesting dynamics. One of the things that we're seeing more and more within the nonprofit grant ecosystem is that many of the funders are now looking to see, okay, is there collaboration with other nonprofit organizations or with other entities that could assist you in doing what it is that you're doing? It makes sense from an economic standpoint. But what it also does, it eliminates the need for replication. If you're doing something, Sheila, and Ericka is 5 blocks away, and she's doing the same thing, then it would make sense to sort of provide an incentive for the two of you to come together, work together in order to address a certain socioeconomic issue.
Right.
So it's very efficient. It's very effective. And I believe I'm seeing more and more where, particularly as again in the nonprofit ecosystem, that people have caught on and they are more comfortable with working together. So it's less and less a situation, whereby someone, will stand up on a soapbox and beat their chest and say, we're doing this. We're the, this is something that we're doing. We're the only ones who are doing it. That's not where it is nowadays. Now it's about, partnerships. And I will say, I know from, experience, Sheila, that's definitely, one of your strengths, in terms of being able to reach out to people and developing those relationships and developing partnerships, with other organizations. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to applaud you, for those efforts. You've been doing a most excellent job with that.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I feel so.
Can I interject, please?
Yes. Please.
I was going to say it in the beginning, but Sheila kept the mic. I want to say, Miss Sheila Hardy, CEO and founder of Because It's Personal, Inc., congratulations on receiving your 501c3 certification. You've been telling the audience, you've been sharing with our listeners since the first episode that you don't have it yet. You don't have it yet. And this is episode number 19, I believe. Yay! So I want to say congratulations for still, like David just said, still going through with partnerships and having a conversation, as if you already had it, knowing that it was coming, not getting flustered, frustrated, or distracted behind it. And I hope that serves as inspiration for other nonprofit founders who are, in the same process. And it may take, honestly, it took 8 months when it typically should only take about, 14 weeks, but we are talking about Uncle Sam, IRS, So I just want to say, thank you for, still going through with the conversations and the Skype calls and the meetings and all that good stuff, in spite of not having it, knowing that it was just going to have to catch up with you when it finally did come.
I'd just like to make one observation, with that, so that folks will have a maybe a clear understanding. When you apply for nonprofit status, with the federal government, it's a 501c3 tax exempt status with the federal government. There are basically two types of applications that you file. You could either file a 1023 application. That's a full application, and that's contingent upon whether or not your organization is expecting to receive more than $50,000 within a calendar year.
Is that the one that because it's personal, you applied that for mine?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because of the kinds of things that you're planning on doing,
right?
Your budget actually will exceed $50,000.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
That wouldn't do much for you based on what your plans are.
Correct.
Okay.
And I just want to remind our listeners that David is working with me. He's working for me to help me do this. So I just want to let you know. Okay, go ahead, David. Sorry.
Okay. Now, that application, and it's you could visit the IRS website. They let you know up front that it will take a minimum of 180 days, okay, before that application is even reviewed or sent to the person that will make a determination about your application. Okay. The other filing is the 1023 EZ. It's like it's like the 1040 where you have all the different schedules, Schedule C's
Right.
and Schedule A's, and okay, with the 1023 EZ, it's a very simple form. It doesn't ask for the amount and detailed information that the regular, if you will, 1023 asks for. And those usually those types of applications, don't take quite as long as they call it the streamlined, application. So there is a difference, and it depends on, where you see your organization currently, and where would you see your organization in terms of operating funding over a period of time, usually over a 3-year period.
Gotcha. Good information. Good information. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see. There are so many different aspects, again, within the grant writing ecosystem. And I would say the most important thing, if it's a for-profit, if it's a non-profit organization, is to have a clear vision. Okay? To have a really clear vision in your mind and written down somewhere, about what it is. I mean, who are you? What is it that you're trying to do? What issue are you attempting to address, particularly in the nonprofit community? That's key, because if you don't have a clear vision, it would be very difficult, if not impossible, for you to articulate that to someone that you're asking monies for. But even more so, it's very difficult if you don't have a clear vision of who you are and what you are and why you're there. Why are you existing in the first place? I mean, that I would say is paramount, having a clear vision. The second tip I would suggest is to begin to write down what you understand, what you believe to be your mission, your vision, and your values. Okay? That kind of exercise will help you to focus on how you could better serve the community at large. It will also help you to better understand what demographic or what socioeconomic issue are you trying to address?
Right.
Is this an issue with finding housing for formerly incarcerated individuals? And if so, how do you plan to help them? Okay. Let me also back up for a minute and say, and give you one of David's truisms. One of the things that I've learned over the 22 plus years that I've been doing this as a business is that I have found that needs do not get funded. Programs do. Okay? Yeah. And let me repeat that again. Needs don't get funded, but programs do. Oftentimes, and I'm talking specifically in the nonprofit ecosystem, is that someone will see a need to do something. They see a homeless people on the street, and, oh, that's terrible. I want to do something about it. Let's get some money to help them. And that's fine. That's where it all starts. But if you don't have a well thought out program, then you're not going to be seriously considered in terms of funding from anyone, actually. So once again, there could definitely be a need to do something to address an issue, but if you don't have a program in place that spells out exactly what it is, who it is that you're trying to help, how you're going to help them, where you're going to help them, when you're going to help them, as well as having certain metrics in place. When I say metrics, I mean some tool that you're going to be able to use that will show how effective your program is. No one's going to give you money just to give you money. How are you going to evaluate how well you're doing your job? How are you going to justify anyone providing you funding to do something if there is, first of all, there's no program, but even more so, if you don't have an evaluation tool, if you will, that will let someone know or gain a clear understanding the efficacy of your efforts. So that's one of my main little things, I guess you could say, but particularly in the nonprofit ecosystem.
Well, can I interject, please, and ask you this?
Sure.
How does a new nonprofit who has the need, sees the need that they're going to, help out with, and they have a program, they know the KPIs they will be shooting for, but have no history to relate to the potential grant maker?
So you're, if I'm understanding your question, Ericka, you're asking if you're new to the scene,
Right.
you're a new organization, you don't have a history of success. How
Exactly.
does someone? Well, let me just say this, and I hope this doesn't sound biblical, but there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
Chances are, what you're planning on doing, someone else has already done.
True.
Right.
If not exactly, then fairly close to it. Okay. So to address your question, if you're planning to do, let's just say transitional housing for ex-offenders or formerly incarcerated individuals, someone else somewhere on this planet has done that in the past.
Right.
Okay. So then it would be incumbent upon you to do your research, understand what those other programs have done, what worked for them, and modify it, if you will. I'm going to say modify for lack of a better word, to how those other programs and how that might fit with your unique situation, and then be able to utilize those various kinds of evaluation tools to help you craft a program that's going to be effective.
Okay.
Does that answer?
Yeah, that answered the question, and thank you. So, how about Sheila and I have food rescue operations, right? that we're both brand new, start like we did, just start back to back. So, just because this has been done before, that means a grant maker is, what is a grant maker looking for to determine they're only giving one away. So what are they looking for to determine if it's going to Sheila because it's personal or Ericka with LifeChangers?
Are you saying that you have two organizations and you're both doing the same thing, and which organization would get the money? Would Sheila get the money?
Exactly. Because neither one of us have history. What does a newbie nonprofit need to make sure, or need to at least try to have, experience, knowledge? I mean, how do they demonstrate I can do this?
Well, there are a lot of different moving parts, Ericka, and I'm not sure if there's one simple response to your question, and I'll explain why I say this. Okay, part of the problem, or part of the problem that you will be met with is, particularly if you're new, they will want to look at certain things about your organization. For example, do you have a board? Okay, tell me about your board. And does your board have an understanding? Does your board have an understanding of what your mission is? Do you have an active board? Do you have a board that understands what it means to be a part of a board? So that's one thing, and we could actually talk for hours just about your board of directors in and of itself. Okay, so that's one piece. The second piece, Ericka, is that here's something that we do here at ADVERTISE and Associates. When we're looking for funding for our clients, as I mentioned earlier, what we do, if say Sheila came to me and say, okay, David, we want to do this transitional housing for formerly incarcerated individuals, and we go through our various search engines, and we've identified, say, 10 potential funders. What happens at that point is that we will begin to make contact with those funders.
Okay.
We'll call them up. We write letters. And basically what we're doing is that we're establishing a relationship. And here's why. Okay. And I'm just using this as an example. I know Sheila a little bit better. She and I, we've interacted more so than you and I have, right?
Right.
Okay. So, Sheila, if I came to you tomorrow and I said, Sheila, I could really, could you let me have $100? Okay. Chances are, because Sheila and I, she knows me, we've talked, we have a relationship, the chances are that Sheila would be more willing to give me that $100 than if I came to you, Ericka. We've talked, but we don't have the same relationship that I have with Sheila. So you may give it to me, but you're like, I don't really know you.
Let me think about it.
I really don't know you that well, so I might have to pass on this one. Holler at me a little bit, holler at me a little bit later, and I'll see what I could do for you.
Right.
So
right.
it's that kind of a thing, and that's what I'm saying. It's not. There's no one clear cut answer or solution, particularly if you're a newbie and you don't have a history of having received grants in the past, because you have no history. Right. And then what's also important is that within your program, and that once again, I get back to the program aspect of your organization, that you have other things in place. For example, that you have an accounting system in place, and an accounting system that is consistent with what's known as GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, because I want to make sure that when that money comes to you, that money is used specifically for the purposes in which it was intended.
Right.
Okay. And not to fund your daughter's volleyball facility somewhere, but will be used to help the people in which it was intended.
Right.
Okay. So, having an accounting system. So the program you said, making sure, that when you establish your program or when you craft the program, that your budget is straight. Okay. That everybody understands, how the monies will be spent, that, there's another piece within, all funding. It's called administrative overhead. In the past, people took real advantage of that. And so say, for example, for those who don't understand what that means, administrative overhead is the cost that the grantee charges to administer a grant. Okay. So if your administrative overhead is more than 30% or so, then that may make some potential donors pause.
I'm sure. Wow.
Okay. And that's happened in the past.
Wow.
Okay. That it was not uncommon for grantees to indicate that their administrative overhead cost was 40% of the grant. So,
okay.
There are a number of different things that needs to be in place, that the potential grantee needs to be aware of, and so what's also helpful is if the organization that you are partnering with has had a history of having received grants.
Right.
Okay. So, those are some of the main points. And there are others, that kind of go into the sauce, if you will. But those are some of the issues that have cropped up, at least based on my experiences over the years, that have, either helped or hindered, an organization from receiving a grant.
Okay. Okay. Well, since you touched on it, can you tell us real quick, if it's a quick number, what, if you're going by percentages, what percentage should administrative costs be? We know it shouldn't be 30%. So what, maybe 8, 10, 15?
Usually around 15%.
15. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Usually around 15.
Okay. Well, Sheila and I were talking earlier before you came on, David, asking, or wondering, so of course we're going to ask you because you're the expert in the room. As far as grants, this is the Community Nonprofit Network podcast. So, of course, we speak mostly, usually just to nonprofits. But for nonprofits throughout the year, is there a season? Sheila used the word season. So is there a season or seasons that we should be aware that grants are more readily available than others? I know with like government, a lot of times that is in the beginning of the year because they've just started their budget, started dipping into their budget. But what about grants in general?
It's a year-round process. It really is. I know that some grant writers who would say, well, the summer months are usually their busiest time of the year. But, once again, and I'm only speaking from my own personal experience, I would say that it's basically year-round. Right now, we're in the final quarter of the calendar year, and I've got some grant applications that we're currently working on with a September 27th deadline. I've got some that are coming up that are March 4th, March 5th, October 4th, 5th, and 7th deadlines. I've got some that where their deadlines are in November. Now, okay. Let me back up again and say this too. It also depends. Okay. If you're looking at a grant based on giving, for a foundation, most foundations, may meet on a quarterly basis. Okay.
Oh.
So, what you want to do is you want to get your applications in, at the beginning, of that quarter. And then when their board meets, your application will be there. The conversations would have taken place between the grant writer and the organization, so that when they meet, the board meets and they come to your application, the person that you've spoken with can say, oh yeah, I remember having a conversation with Ericka and this is what they're doing. And so, I think this is something that, we may want to in fact fund. Okay. So that's part of it. The other part too is that, there are other grants. For example, Walmart has a grant and their funding is not based on a deadline, but it's based on funding availability. Okay. So for example, with the Walmart grant, if the program that you're planning to initiate is located within a certain geographic area of a Walmart store, then you would apply, through their grant portal to a particular store, and, there is no deadline. There is no time frame.
Right.
For having to have an application in. It's based on whether or not they have funding that are earmarked for a nonprofit organization. Right. Now, if you're looking to solicit funding from an individual, then my God, all kinds of variables come into play because you're dealing with an individual. and based on however they decide to craft their fund disbursement process, it runs the gamut. Some grants some applications you could send to an individual and get a response back in, 5 to 7 to 10 business days. Others may take much longer than that.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you. That's definitely something to think about.
Yeah. So if you want to, I think we talked about this before. I can't remember, getting older. But with the nonprofit and wanting to include a for-profit, that can happen.
Explain. What do you mean by that?
Like I have a nonprofit, but what if I want to incorporate a for-profit in my nonprofit? Is that possible or not?
What now? When you say incorporate, tell me exactly what it is.
If I want to add with my nonprofit a organization that is a for-profit, can I do that? Does that make sense, or can I don't know if I'm saying it right. Ericka, help me out.
Yeah, it's like a lot of for-profits will have an outreach, like a nonprofit arm. So she's saying opposite, like because it's personal, is transitional housing, and then they want to open up a real estate brokerage for-profit arm of the organization. That's right, Sheila? That sound about right?
Can I do it? Yeah, can I do that?
Generally speaking, when you get when you complete your application, it's the 1023 form that you file with the IRS. You have made certain declarations about what this organization is. Okay? That how you're going to be receiving your funds, what your organization's about, what your budget is, da-da-da-da-da. So, in general, you're sort of locked in, to that based on what you've already told the IRS that you're going to do. Now, if you understood from the beginning that you were thinking about incorporating, if you will, a for-profit piece to your nonprofit, then that was something that maybe should have been done at the very beginning. Now, let me also say this. Just because you are a nonprofit organization doesn't mean that you can't charge for services. Okay? You can. And as a matter of fact, oftentimes that is encouraged.
Right.
Okay? So it may not be necessary to establish a separate it may not be necessary to establish a for-profit entity that would fall under the umbrella of your nonprofit organization.
Okay.
Say, for example, Sheila, if you're doing a transitional housing situation for formerly incarcerated individuals, and you plan to do counseling, okay? Now, there's, based on how your nonprofit is structured, you would not be prohibited from charging a fee, okay, for your services, for your counseling services, okay, and that's something that's done all the time, okay. If you have materials that you're going to be disseminating, distributing to people, they're particularly educational material, and you want to charge a fee for that, you would be well within your rights in order to do so. Okay, so I hope that I've answered at least your question in part.
Yeah, because one thing about it is and I'm not trying to put all my stuff out there, but when there's 3 months, I believe, if I got this right, where the state once the people that we're going to be working with come out of jail, and then they take care of them for, I think it's 3 months. And then after that, they should have a job by then and blah, blah, blah. But the way our program is, they will stay in this program for a year or so. And then they will be paying for room and board. And that's where I'm thinking, okay, that's money coming in, but it's also going into the program.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense?
And yeah.
And so with that being said, and then of course we're thinking about, also creating jobs, we create jobs where if they can't find something immediately, they will be working with what we have created. So that's where the question came about. Concerning, okay, can we do this? So yeah, that's great. That is awesome. Awesome. Well, one thing about it is that we want to, it's getting close to ending this, but David, this is good information that we need.
Yes.
And we want to thank you because this is the second time you've been with us. So you're not new.
You're the first repeat. Yay!
It's always a pleasure to be in company, if only virtual, with two amazing, intelligent young ladies, and I'm just so delighted that you have invited me to share some information about what it is that you all are doing, and I'm having fun.
Oh, that's what we want you to do. We want you to have fun.
Yes.
And one thing about it is, we did this before. What would you do with you in the first one? So I really don't. I don't have anything. Well, I do. Let me see. You ready for?
I'm gonna say Miss Questions.
Yeah. Well, because we did this in the beginning, and I don't want to go over it again. However, it just came to me, and what I want to do is, because one thing about with David, I hopefully he won't get mad with me, but David is seeking God's I don't want to say approval, but seeking an answer concerning about what he wants to do next concerning about his ministry. And
awesome.
It's really something, because the principle of, a lot of people don't understand that God has principles that don't change, and it works. Right. And he's seeking that. I haven't talked to him in a while, but anyway, my question to you is, what would you do if you knew, concerning your whole perspective of what you're doing now? What would you do if you knew you could not fail in anything, in your quest to, do what God is calling you to do? the business that you're working with me, if you knew you couldn't fail.
Well, part of this is it's a business for me. It's how I earn my living. But it's also part of what I consider to be my ministry, because it's really what I find, most rewarding is being a part of someone's journey.
Yes.
And if your goal is to help others, and I see that and I understand that with both you, Sheila, as well as Ericka, then that is so rewarding for me, and I mean that in all earnest, because there are so many issues. There are so many people in this world who are hurting.
Yes.
And who honestly need help.
Yes.
And we're finding more and more that there are people out there, unfortunately, who will take advantage.
Yes, yes, yes.
Of the downtrodden, and it's just so rare that you find people like yourselves, who are really genuine,
right,
and who really have the heart and the desire to help people, and so for me to be able to be a part of that is just it's awesome. So if I could not fail, it would be to be able to help more people like yourselves.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Okay.
What would you do if there was no more internet? Now, I'm not going to give our ages away, but I'm sure we can think about one day when we didn't have access to the internet. Way back when. What would you do, David?
I don't want to think about it. I oftentimes want, look, because my wife gets on me all the time because my phone is always in my hand or on my hip or somewhere nearby, and I'm sending out emails, reading emails, responding to texts, making calls, receiving calls. It has just become computers and the internet has just become such a integral
yes.
part of my life. Wow. Wee.
Wee.
Well, let me interject because, see, you've been doing this for a long time. Before all this internet and all this stuff, you did this a long time ago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so.
But not at this level. I mean, when I first started writing grants, it was back in the 80s.
That's what I'm saying.
And, it was all done paper. You mailed your proposal in, and you sat by the mailbox and you waited for a response, or you got on at least I did have a telephone. So we were able to make a call to a building and not a person. So that made the whole strategy has changed. And I mean, not just in terms of where we started in 1980 and looking at where we are today. But as I said earlier, things have changed considerably post-COVID.
Yes.
I'll give you a brief example. We now have clients across the United States, as well as in Africa and in the Caribbean. Okay. Prior to that time, we were pretty much local, regional at best.
Okay.
But because of what had happened was, but COVID, and it really forced people to feel more comfortable with doing what we're doing now.
Right.
With virtual meetings. So, people, actually many, particularly within my demographic, my cohorts are now more comfortable with using computers, and they feel more comfortable with either Skype or Zoom or any of the other kinds of virtual meeting platforms that we now use in business. So it has actually expanded our reach, and we're able to reach more people. And
awesome.
As I said, we've got clients in Africa. We've got basically we're international now, where we weren't before.
Right. Well, you'd be back to maybe reduced to a brothers word. What was it called? The brothers. Oh my gosh, what was that called? What was the machine called? Come on, you know.
I don't know.
It wasn't a word processing. That's what it was. Word process before Word, before Microsoft. Okay, y'all acting like I'm the oldest one in the room. Come on now. When I was a sales secretary for a 5-star hotel, we didn't have Microsoft yet, so I was on a Brothers word processor.
Oh yeah, I remember. I remember the old. We used to call them trash 80s. The Radio Shack computers with the huge 5 1/4 floppy disk.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I go back that far. I remember the 386 computers, and
yes,
we moved to the 486, and now we're you know.
But doing something, going from the 386 to the 486. What? I have arrived. Don't play with me. I'm getting things done.
You know, I mean, I can remember going from the 60 megabyte hard drive to 100 megabyte, and I was in high cotton. You know, now we're talking tetrabytes of data storage.
Yes.
Now everything's in the cloud.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, things have definitely progressed.
It is, I'll say this. I think no matter what age you are, if you work online at any degree, you're not trying to even think about no internet. Like, go back to the internet. I'm retiring. Started dog walking. I mean, you can't even have a dog walking service without some kind of app. You know, Waggle, whatever it's called. So yeah. I just thought that when you said something, and like, well, what would he do without the internet? Okay.
I remember looking at I think it may have been on YouTube, and I saw this grandmother had her grandkids, and she had an old rotary phone.
Oh yes.
And she asked them to call somebody on the rotary phone, you know, and these are Gen Zers or even younger, and they could not figure out how to use a rotary phone.
Hilarious.
You know?
Hilarious. Yeah. I think I watched that about 5 times straight.
Okay.
Just to get a good laugh.
Yeah.
Good laugh.
Absolutely.
I remember, I'll say this real quick, and then I know we got to go. When my grandson was about 1.5, 2 years old, and my grandmother was still a flip phone till she passed. She tried to go to smartphone, took it back to Walmart, got her flip phone back. So, but my grandson, you know, they're 83 years apart to the day, and so he gets her phone, and he's trying to swipe it. He's trying to swipe it. And she said, and so when I come home off the road, she's like, Ericka, Elijah was rubbing on my phone like there was dust on it. And I said, oh, he's trying to swipe it. She says, what's he swiping it for? I said, and I showed her on my phone, and she said, well, what kind of phone does that? So she tried it. She went to Walmart. She didn't like that she had to swipe to unlock it. You know, but he was trying to swipe to see pictures. And that was like, I mean, these kids, you're right. That video there, it tells so much truth that we are leaps and bounds. I mean, even above the 90s.
Yeah.
Even since the 90s with the brick in the bag.
Yeah.
Cell phone, even the late 90s and early 2000s, paying 49 cents a minute on a cell phone. You better go find that payphone.
Can you find one now?
No.
A payphone?
Nope. Can you find an operator? That's what I want to know. Can you find an operator?
Yeah,
you
it's called
God forbid somebody have a touch tone, you know, or a rotary phone. They're out of luck.
Well, the operator now is called Google.
Yeah. And wait, but you remember when, and maybe you don't remember this part, but you remember when the operator would actually place the call for you for an additional fee?
Absolutely.
All you do is press your button on the side of your phone, call the Department of Labor, call Department of Driver Service. Which one would you like?
I'm going to have to interject, guys. I know you going back in the day. Next time we'll have something like back in the day when.
You sit there quiet like you don't know.
I don't know nothing what you're saying. I have nothing.
Yeah. I know you were making part of the time, but you come from Chi-Town, so you know.
I have no idea what you're talking about. But one thing about it, David, we want to thank you so much for coming on. You know we're going to have you back again. You know that for tips, you know, to help our listening people or whatever. But we're going to have you back, of course, for some more tips. So get ready.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
Okay, great. And we just want to say this quote, because we always do a quote at the end, but this is the quote that I want to at least talk to a lot of people that are listening that are having, you know, debt and trying to figure out what to do. But worrying is like paying a debt you don't owe. So that's what we want to leave with you today is worrying is like paying a debt you don't owe.
Yes. Wow. Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right. So thank you again, David.
Thank you for having me.
Ericka, tell us goodbye.
Okay. Well, hey, folks, if you would like to advertise with the CNN podcast, either get a mention on the podcast itself or on our website or both, then please visit our website at thecnnpodcast.com. That also goes for if you'd like to be a guest on a future episode. We would love to have you. And like Sheila says, shine the light on your nonprofit and all the good you're doing in the community. We hope this was extremely helpful for somebody. And please share it, like it, and subscribe to our podcast. Help us grow to be seen by more people. And fam, until next time, as always, be awesome and be blessed.
Amen.